What is up, Insaners, and welcome to another preseason video of the Fantasy Premier League 2021-22. In today's video, we'll cover some of your final drafts and review them. Like the last time, guys, we'll discuss different viable formations along with some of the best picks in each position, so make sure you watch the whole video. Before we start, a big thank you to all of you who shared your drafts. We'll be releasing more such videos throughout this year. They will mostly be around fixing teams with your suggested transfers, and then we'll review them in depth. I think it'll be quite an interesting series, guys, so do watch out for that. In case you want to watch some of our earlier preseason stuff, guys, you can do so by checking out this year's FPL playlist. Also, if you like today's video, do smash that like button, guys. You can also consider subscribing to the channel if you're new around here. We'll be doing a lot of fantasy content this year, so make sure you hit the bell icon to get notifications of all our upcoming videos. Great, so let's move on then. We'll start today's video by taking up the first draft. We'll go formation wise, and the first one that we are covering here has to be one of the most popular and the attacking one, guys, is the 3-5-2. This is the first draft, guys, and it's shared by Wackadoodle. It's a draft with both Bruno and Salah, so we can get that out of the way first. To be honest, there are a couple of really interesting picks here. In fact, guys, this is the only draft that I got which had Pereira from Leicester. Now, he made a return from injury last season, but was not really that effective. This year, guys, he's priced at 5.5 million. In terms of his preparedness for the new season, I think he's one of the biggest winners from Leicester City. The first half of the Community Shield, guys, was definitely his best half of football in over 18 months. He made 8 tackles in the game, he looked incredibly sharp and confident and was decent in attack too. With James Justin out long term and Castagna not match fit yet, guys, he could have a great start to the season. Now, fixtures are not that bad, especially considering that Pereira can give points at both ends of the pitch. A great differential punt in my opinion. Of course, if you want to go a bit safer, you have Digne as well, but let's say if DCL is out for the first week, guys, he might not be a very effective option. Plus, Everton in general have struggled in the preseason, so maybe it's worth the risk. Now, another pick I really like here is Harvey Barnes, who has returned from injury and looked like a nuisance to City's backline in the Community Shield game. I think the minutes he's got before the Gameweek 1, guys, has really helped him. He looks sharp, fit, and ready to go. The fixtures look good from an attacking sense. I think he has to be the best midfield option in that price range. Now, I personally don't feel that his minutes are an issue. Yes, he might get substituted in some games, but the likes of Iheanacho are at more risk than him for sure. A great bargain at 7 million in my opinion. Other picks in this draft include some regular ones here, guys. Trent and Shaw are almost must-haves now. No surprises that they are the top 2 owned defenders in the game right now. Rafinha is probably another safe pick in my opinion. Now, he still is the standout pick in the 6.5 million category, so do watch out for him. Then we also have Saka here, who's the second most owned Arsenal player in the game right now. Guys, I think if he's fit, he will get a lot of minutes this season and he could be of great value. Arsenal have a couple of tricky fixtures in Game Week 2 and 3, so if you want, you can even wait and go for some other picks in the same price range. There are a couple of options from West Ham. Now, if you are looking to play safe, you can go for Souček. You can also look at Benrahma, who has been excellent for West Ham in their preseason. He's a bit risky in terms of starts, but I think the point ceiling with him is going to be a lot more than Souček, who's quite irregular in terms of attacking returns. One thing to note is that both Souček and Benrahma, guys, are 6 million and they should help you save some money. Up front, this draft has Ings and Antonio, which is going to be a quite popular combo at the start at least. I think Ings after the Villa move has got a lot of managers interested, especially after Watkins' appeals has kind of come down. Ings is a more clinical finisher than Watkins and has to play up front irrespective of the formation Aston Villa play this season. Now, guys, Antonio is also looking good. He has played a lot of minutes in the preseason and he should be good to go. I think he's probably the best option in the 7.5 million striker category right now. Now, the bench options of this draft, guys, that could definitely improve. Tsimikas could be an option from Liverpool if you're not looking at Jota for Game Week 1 or beyond. He should be a lot better than Hover, who mostly won't start for Wolves. Now, Martin's another one, but you already have Pereira, so that is fine. In case you plan to move out Pereira, then a Marty at 4 million looks quite good. Another pick that is a decent option here is Veltman. Now, I'm not 100% sure in terms of his position. He could play as one of the centre backs of the back 3. He could even slot in on the left in the Lamptey position and play as a wing back. Whatever the position, I still feel he's a good pick considering Brighton will try to keep it tight at the back like last season. Overall, a pretty good team with a couple of really nice differentials. Some improvements can be made in terms of the bench, but other than that, good to go for game week 1. Now guys, we have another variation of the 352. This one is shared by Addy. Now I'm covering this one as this has a Liverpool double with Salah and Jota. Jota is a really interesting option in my opinion, guys. Game week 1 is Norwich, so the fixture is really good. Now there could be a few goals in there, and there are quite high chances that Jota starts this one. The issue is with the next set of games, guys. There are chances that he might get benched for the Burnley game, and I really don't think so that Klopp will play him for the Chelsea game in game week 3. Now guys, there's an argument to be made that Jota has a great XG per 90, but his number of minutes are also too less for this data to hold huge significance. Overall, I think it's a risky move, but could benefit you in the extreme short term. Another interesting pick here is Soufal, who could have a great season this year, guys. He played well in the Euros and continued that form in the preseason games as well. Now Soufal ended the last season with 9 assists after creating 45 chances for his teammates. In terms of some numbers, he accumulated 0.17 XGI per 90, that is quite decent for a defender. He's definitely one of the standard options in the 5 million defender category. Guys, the only worry I have with him is the clean sheet potential. Last season, West Ham did struggle to keep clean sheets, especially in the second half of the season, so that is something that we need to assess before getting him in. I still feel he's a good option considering his attacking potential, and definitely the better option between him and the slightly expensive Cresswell. Coming to keepers, guys, and Sanchez here is a very good pick among goalkeepers. He's definitely better than Bachmann, who's also in the same price category. I personally think investing the least amount of money on goalkeepers is the right strategy. I would not like to go for rotating keepers. Yes, you have the clean sheet odds every week to kind of assess who's most likely to get a clean sheet, but the rotation can go horribly wrong, guys, and your bench keeper might end up getting more points for a lot of weeks. I think it's better to avoid that scenario and just go ahead with one playing keeper. Now coming to another player, guys, Harrison's the final player worth a mention in this draft. Nobody's here talking about him as most of the people prefer the 6.5 million option Rafinha. Now Harrison, guys, he had 8 goals and 10 assists last season, and no other 6 million mid comes close to that. I think he has a higher ceiling in terms of points if we compare him with the likes of Souček, but he also has a tendency to get subbed early at times, and that could be a bit annoying as an FPL manager. Overall, I still feel he could be a great punt early on. The fixtures are a bit tricky, so you won't be completely wrong in avoiding him altogether. Another solid draft, guys, with a good bench, and let's move on to the third variation of 352. Now thank you Leeds FPL for sharing this with us. Now I won't go in too much depth here as majority of the squad is similar to the last one. Still, there are a couple of really interesting options here. Now instead of the attacking double up with Jota and Salah, we have a defensive double up in Trent and Tsimikas. Let me cover one very important thing first, guys. I really don't think so it's worth getting Tsimikas as a cover for Trent. I think you can think of getting him in addition to Trent, but definitely not in place of him. It's too much of a gamble and an extra transfer to get your house in order once Robertson returns or Trent starts hurting your FPL rank. Robertson's injury also doesn't look very long, so make sure you know what you're letting go from a Liverpool perspective. Also know that Tsimikas plays Chelsea in game week 3 and you might not even play him that week. So that means, guys, you're only getting him for a maximum of 2 to 3 weeks, post which he might not play. Now if you plan to get Jota in at that time, then you might need to make 2 transfers and take a hit, and that won't be ideal by any means. Guys, make sure you think it through. There's no right or wrong answer here. You could go either way depending on some of your other picks and overall team balance. Guys, the other pick that really interests me here is Gundogan from Man City. Now a lot of Man City assets are being ignored majorly because of the Pep roulette. He's priced higher this year at 7.5 million. Now his attacking stats are a lot better when he's playing without KDB, and Pep, guys, he's already confirmed that KDB won't feature for at least the first couple of games. Another thing to mention is that he had a great game against Blackpool where he scored 2 goals and provided an assist as well. Now he has this great ability of getting into scoring positions around the 6-yard box, and that was again in play against Blackpool. While the preseason performance might not be that relevant, guys, what works in his favor is his match sharpness and rhythm, something that will surely help him do well in game week 1 against Spurs. I think he's a really good option to consider early on in KDB's absence in that price range. Now guys, let's cover some drafts in the 3-4-3 formation. The first one we have is shared by Nizan, who has a couple of tricky calls to make before the deadline. From the first look, Aint Nouri doesn't look like a starter for Wolves. Now, a lot of managers got interested in him as he was playing on the left side for Wolves, but the return of Traore would keep him on the bench. Marcel looks to be the preferred option at left back or left wing back, so 8 Nouri is not an option anymore. Guys, if you're looking at replacements, then there are a lot of options to choose from. You can go for Veltman as you already have Ailing. They both form a really good rotating pair and should help you avoid all the tough fixtures at the start. Then you also have Ben White, who should be a confirmed starter for Arsenal and has a good run of fixtures, especially from Gameweek 4. Now he's already owned by almost 25% players in the game, and that could rise even more before the deadline. You can also go for a couple of 4 million starters like Amati or Semikas and probably save some money here. Coming to a couple of injury doubts now, Watkins and Bundia both are doubts, and this situation needs to be monitored very closely. In case Bundia is out, you have a lot of options in the 6.5 million budget midfielder category. You have Rafinha, Saka, West Ham options, or even Sarr from Watford. I saw Sarr in a lot of drafts early on, but it has kind of reduced now. He ended the championship season brilliantly, guys, under the new manager, and is potentially on penalties when Deeney is not on the pitch. One thing is for sure, guys, that he's Watford's talisman that should play 90 minutes every game, and I think pretty much everything will go through him attacking wise. The only negative thing here is that he plays for Watford, right, who might not score a lot of goals this season, plus with so many forwards in the team, they might go with 2 up top rather than playing a 4-3-3, and that will reduce Sarr's effectiveness. Still a decent differential shout at the start of the season though. Watkins is a second Villa player who might need replacing here. A switch to Antonio looks very easy, straight swap, quite simple. Another player that I'm not 100% sure of is Grealish. Now Pep mentioned in his press comments before the Shield that he's not ready to start. Whether he meant only the Shield game or the start of the season is something that we need to check. In general, I think Grealish should become an option a little later, but maybe it's more viable to go with someone like a Mahrez right now, who has looked in good touch throughout the preseason and is one of the favourites to start the early part of the season. Now the problem here is that Mahrez is 9 million, so you will have to find that extra million from somewhere. One option is going for the cheaper 5th midfielder like a 4.5 million player and then doing the City upgrade. Wilson is also a great differential pick here, I think which a lot of managers are ignoring, but I really like him. Good solid numbers for Newcastle, and he will be Newcastle's main source for attacking returns. I was reading this very interesting tweet from Big Man Bucker. By the way, if you don't follow him, you should. He's doing a lot of good stuff for the FPL community. Now his tweet said that Newcastle had 29 big chances in the last 11 game weeks at the end of last season. During this time, they were 3rd for big chances and 4th for XG. These are pretty good signs for Wilson as one of your forwards. He's a great pick in my opinion. Overall, not having Bruno is differential for this draft, but it's a bit risky. There's a lot to lose here if he performs, so make sure you nail the replacements, otherwise it might be a difficult start to the season for you. The second draft here is shared by Akshat, guys. Thanks Akshat for sharing this with us. Now interestingly, this doesn't have Shaw in it. On one hand, he has been in crazy form, he's also the highest owned player in the game, so any attacking returns or even a clean sheet along with some bonus points could hurt your rank a lot. The thing is that his chance creation rate is so high that he's quite likely to get an assist along with a high bonus point score. Now the other side of the argument is a bit more tactical. Varane and Sancho's arrival, guys, that might affect Shaw as an FPL asset. Now there is a chance that United play a 4-3-3 and without a good DM, they might get a bit vulnerable. Could also make the fullbacks not push as high as they did last season. Now Sancho took some set pieces during his time at Dortmund. He might replace Shaw in indirect free kicks and corner duty, reducing Shaw's attacking involvement. Guys, United's opening fixtures from a defensive point of view aren't that good either. I see them only keeping clean sheets in probably 3 to 4 games from their first 9 fixtures. At the same price, there is Lucas Digne that you've gone for. Everton have much better fixtures than Man United, so he could be a decent pick. It's a tough call to be honest. I think for the first few weeks, Shaw could be a decent option, but he doesn't look like a very long-term hold. Coming to the Everton duo now, Lucas Digne and DCL. We'll start with Digne. Apparently he's not on set pieces from what we saw against Man United, but he still delivers a major threat from open play. Guys, he got 9 assists last season and interestingly a surprising price drop as well. His fixtures are good, but DCL's fitness is an issue right now. Now for Digne to be highly effective, guys, DCL obviously needs to play. He doesn't take the most shots like other forwards in the game, but he does get a lot of big chances. Now 16 goals without penalties last season, that's an incredible return, and his underlying numbers are also quite good. I think he's expected to be fit, and if he plays, the DCL Digne combination could give you some really good FPL points. Overall, quite a safe team with the Everton double up, along with Salah and Fernandes. Now the bench could be a bit better with maybe one of Ayling or Weltman instead of Cody in the buzzer defender category. Okay, so now we finished the 3 defender formations. Now let's look at a few 4-4-2 drafts. Guys, this one is quite similar to the 3-5-2s that we were seeing earlier. Thanks to Ibrahim for this draft. Now Benrahma is one option that is really popular on Twitter right now. He's had a really good preseason against Atlanta. Moyes played the usual 4-2-3-1 formation with Benrahma given the number 10 role. Now that really shows how much faith Moyes has in this player, guys. Benrahma loves to operate just outside the box, almost level in terms of position with Antonio. Now against Atlanta, with Antonio acting as the focal point, Benrahma was sometimes in more advanced positions. Now his movement is good, he always tries to find spaces and he's not afraid to shoot. I think Moyes needs another player who can step up after Lingard, and playing Benrahma in the center has definitely given him the freedom and the space to thrive at least in the preseason. Guys, at 6 million, you really can't do too much wrong here. He's still a risky bet with Bowen in the team, plus he might not play 90 minutes for most games, but I think overall, he's a risk worth taking for your team. Coming to the second 4-4-2 draft, now this one is shared by Shubham. It has Son in place of Bruno Fernandes. Another huge dilemma, guys, a lot of FPL managers like you would be facing right now is where to go for Bruno or Son or both, which becomes a bit tricky when you already have the likes of Salah and Trent in your team. Now Son has a tricky game week 1 fixture against Man City, but you're not really getting him in for that game. It's the fixtures from game week 2 to 4 that are looking quite good. A lot of managers are not able to get him because of the Bruno Salah combo, but I think he could be a decent option up front. In most preseason games, he has played more central, and that automatically makes him more of a goal threat. The worry for me, guys, is that who will create those chances for Son in case Kane moves to Man City. Now Dele Alli has been playing just off Son, but expecting him to maybe replicate a Kane season in terms of chances created might be a bit too much. Havertz is a bold call, especially as his games from game week 2 to 6 look quite tricky. To be honest, guys, you can overlook someone like a Havertz for these games. Now I think without the presence of a proper striker, Havertz would have played up top or as a false 9, but now with Lukaku coming up, Tuchel might even change formation if he has to accommodate both Werner and Havertz. I personally would wait on Chelsea players till game week 6 and understand who's in the playing 11 and who could be potential options from game week 7 when the fixtures become good. Now Greenwood is also an interesting option in this draft. He's played on the left and even as a number 9 in the preseason, but I'm not very sure about his minutes. I think with Sancho coming in mostly from the right, he might share minutes with Cavani or even Martial. He might start the first couple of games, but like Jota, I'm not sure what happens to him post that. Right now I know it's all speculation, but there are high chances that he might get benched for the starting games as well. The final midfielder here is Emil Smith-Rowe, who again is a tricky option. I would have probably liked Saka more, as his minutes should be guaranteed in that Arsenal team, but the upgrade will cost $1 million more, and that might be difficult to fund. Overall, this draft looks a bit risky in terms of the midfield options, especially with no Fernandes and replacements in Greenwood, Havertz, and Emil Smith-Rowe, who could be hit or miss at the start of the season. Guys, the final 4-4-2 draft is shared by Lakshman. Now his draft has Bruno in place of Son as compared to the earlier draft, but still has the Havertz issue. Now this could easily become Mahrez from downgrading Bachmann to a 4 million goalkeeper. Now Mahrez looks quite nailed in the Man City setup right now and has been looking quite good in preseason. He also had some brilliant performances last year and finished the year with an expected assist per 90 of 0.27, with only KDB posting better creative numbers among City players. Now the only huge downside with him could be Pep's rotation. He might rotate Mahrez with the likes of Torres on the right. Also, there's a good chance that Grealish is generally more nailed throughout the season, but for game week 1, it's really close to call. Another surprising pick here is Southampton's loan signing Livramento, who joins them from Chelsea. Now he does have the potential to break through into Southampton's main team and has already impressed in the preseason. Having said that, I think it's probably better to wait out as Saints have a tricky run till game week 7. Now he could be someone a lot of managers get on their wildcards, so definitely one to watch out for, but I won't take him at the start. Now guys, there are a couple of interesting drafts in some not so popular formations which I thought might be worth highlighting. First, we have a 4-3-3 draft shared by North American. Now it's pretty good with some really safe options in defense, midfield and attack. This was in fact one of the very few drafts where I saw the likes of Wilson, Antonio and Ings paired together in a front three. That's a really strong trio, guys, but that makes you a bit short in terms of your midfield. You have three options in midfield with Salah, Mahrez, and Son. Now, all good picks in my opinion. The fourth pick is where I'm looking for a bit more. Emil Smith Rowe at 5.5, it's not a bad option, but I would have liked it to be at least 6 million, where my options really open up, considering that my fifth midfielder is a cheap Ben fodder who won't be playing for majority of the games, and he's just there to make up the numbers. I think you could possibly take a bit more risk by downgrading Weltman to a 4 million defender, considering that you already have three really good options, and Tsimikas, who would need replacing at some point, and upgrade to the likes of Benrahma, Souček, or even Willock from Newcastle, who could be a great option that nobody is really talking about. Rest looks pretty good, and I really like the three options up front. Now let's move on now to another not so popular formation. Guys, we have the 4-5-1 shared by no Premier League Gerrard 19. Now this is an intriguing one as it is heavily relying on the midfield and defense to provide majority points. It's a decent setup if you really want to go premium up top and probably have Tony as your second striker. In this draft, Deeney is another one that you can probably think of replacing. Now I don't think so he'll start every game for Watford, and you could probably just get a 4.5 million third striker, save that additional 1 million and use it elsewhere. Now the slight worry here is that this draft does not have a premium striker, plus there's no Trent, who according to me is sort of a must-have at the moment. I think with Robertson out, he becomes even more important for the team and he should be on set pieces completely. Fixtures are also good, you got to have Trent in your team. Another very interesting thing that I noted here is that all playing 4 defenders in the 11 are priced at 5.5 million, and that looks a bit tricky. I mean, no denying that all are decent options, but personally I think this can be optimized a bit better. I think Thiago Silva might not start all games with Chelsea, and there's also a chance that he picks up an injury. Now if you still want to target a Chelsea defender at that price, I think Reece James is a better option who should start in Gameweek 1. In fact, Chilwell would have been even better, but he's 6 million. Now the thing is that do you really want to spend your money on a Chelsea defender when you can get Trent or even Tsimikas for at least the next 2 to 3 weeks? FPL Guru had a similar draft where he downgraded Cresswell to Soufal and upgraded the Chelsea defender to one of the Liverpool defenders. Similarly, I think Mount as a pick that could be avoided at the start. Now it's better to sit out and see how Chelsea line up and what kind of impact do picks like Mount and Havertz have from an FPL perspective. You could even target Kane if you want to. Now you just might have to get maybe 2 or even 3 budget midfielders along with Mo Salah and Fernandes and Trent as the other premium picks. Plus when Tony is there with an easier fixture, you can even make this a 3-5-2 or a 4-4-2, putting one of the budget midfielders on the bench. Kane or that premium placeholder could become Lukaku from game week 7 when Chelsea have some good fixtures, and then you can start tinkering around with some other Chelsea picks. With this guys, we've come to the end of this drafts video. Now we've tried to cover a lot of different formations for you to understand that which one is the best for you. There are certain players that look good, and then there's a huge pool of players that you can debate about and choose from across defense, midfield and attack. Make sure you understand what you're getting with each player before you take the final call on that pick. That'll be all from my side guys. Thank you so much for the great response yet again. Do hit the like button if you enjoyed today. Would love to hear your feedback or any suggestions you guys have on what kind of videos would you want to see on the channel going forward. Make sure you subscribe and press the bell icon to get notified of our upcoming videos. You can also join our Insanely Football Mini League. You'll see the league code on the screen to join, and we've also mentioned it in the description below. So do watch out for the next video, which should come out tomorrow and will include our team selection for Game Week 1 along with the best captain picks to go for. Guys, we'll also be streaming live about an hour and a half before the Game Week 1 deadline, so make sure you join us for that as well. First game week of the season, there's so much to talk about and I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Till then, keep tinkering with your team, have a great time, and I'll see you in Saners next time.